Now we get into the most amazing, the juiciest part of this this episode, which is us, Pius and Solo. And my name is Pius.
And I am Solo.
And this is the T, us, Pius and Solo. It's your moment. Shoot the question. Welcome to the T.
Amazed to be part of the T. Agnes Achieng, and my question is, I strongly believe that we are the average of people around us. Can relationship be one way? Like, if you can't access the kind of people that you want to relate with, can you do it like online? Like, I can't access you directly, but I can access your online platform to know more about you, to share with your knowledge. Like, is it right, or is it, what do we call it, that one-way relationship? Or is it not a one-way relationship? If we, like, I can't access my mentors, I can't access the kind of circle that I want to be in, so I do it online, like viewing them, following how they handle their life, their lifestyle, how they handle their money, and the knowledge that they have. How do we call that relationship?
Solo? That's not a romantic one. Well, yes, I mean, it's possible. We all have people we look up to, role models, people who inspire us to more. I think that's normal. I mean, my view is that as much as possible, you want to establish contact points with them. There's no substitute for personal interaction, as improbable as it may seem. I tend to be a glass half full type of person, so if someone tells me that's not possible, I'm just not willing to accept that. Find a way to make it happen. It's possible. Statistics today say that you're only 4 to 6 people removed from anyone on this planet you can think of. I mean, think about that. Anyone. Like, who would you say is an improbable person for you to meet?
I think we can access everybody.
Yeah? But it's a real thing. If you're going to say Bill Gates or Oprah Winfrey, I mean, whoever it is for you, Michael Jordan, whether it's a famous actor, whoever you aspire to, you're only 6 people removed from that person. The only challenge is you haven't been able to map that journey, right? Because you know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone, and you have no idea what their networks are and their points of connection. So, you know, I tend to believe that it's possible. If you want it bad enough, it's possible to make it happen. But if you can't, you know, obviously learn from them. That's what I believe. That's why God left us the Bible. He took his son away and left us written words so that we could be transformed into his image. So it's a real thing. It's a real dynamic. You can become the sort of person you look up to by following their lifestyle, listening to things they say, and that sort of thing. But if you can have a face-to-face with them and cultivate a personal relationship, absolutely, you need to go for that. Maybe I can share a quick idea. I practice it from time to time, whenever I have the opportunity. Someone shared, I forget who it was, someone was teaching a group of people in a session, and they said that someone really wanted to meet them very badly. And he's a very inaccessible person, very wealthy, world-renowned. And instead of, you know, trying to come and ask for an appointment, it's a random stranger, he doesn't know who they are, he's a busy guy, I don't have 10 minutes to say hi to someone to find out what they want. I need to know what they want before we even have a discussion about meeting, you know, type of situation. He said he would come to the office and he found a beautiful bouquet of flowers and a massive bowl of of fruits, basket of fruits, delivered with a note saying, I would really love to meet you. Okay, he's like, yeah, whatever, who is that? He told the people in his office, you guys can cooler the fruits. Whoever wants to take the flowers home, sour. Next day he comes in, same thing. This happened for like 42 days in a row. Finally, after day 42, the girl's like, who on earth is that? Like, this person really wants to meet me. They're blowing money on flowers and fruits. Next time he comes, tell him to wait. That's what he told his receptionist. Next morning he comes and the guy is sitting there. Oh, Mr. So-so, really nice to finally meet you. Could I have 10 minutes of your time? And just like that, a relationship was born. Right? The point there is, be creative. If you really want to meet someone and have personal interaction with them, be like, bust a move, do something. I mean, don't be crazy. Don't be a psycho and start following them and hiding in their garden at night. You know, like, but the point is, be creative. And if you really want it bad enough, you'll be able to find ways to. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's my advice.
Yeah, I think for me the only thing I can add is that everything in this world is about how do you get noticed. That guy got noticed.
Fruits and flowers.
Everything is about pitching, and we are always pitching. Even right now I'm talking to you, I'm pitching. And the best pitch is the one that is most memorable. And one of my friends recently gave me 3 C's of pitching. And the first one is content. You must have content. You must have something of value to say. A lot of the online stuff people are communicating doesn't stand out because it's so there's no value add from the other person's point of view. It's all about you. You get. The second one is clarity. You must be very clear in your pitch what you're looking for. So you can imagine if it's a guy, this person you want to meet is a gentleman. There are probably many other ladies who are hitting on him or something. You get, you need to distinguish yourself away from those kind of people by making your intention as clear as possible. You know, I am out here looking for a business relationship or a networking opportunity. Be so clear. The third one is creativity. There are so many things. You can have content, you can have clarity, but the way you present it, it is so unimpressive. It does not, no one will remember it. So have creativity. How do you put it together? Put it together in a way that it will stand out. The person will read, will go and then come back and read it again. They may not even respond to you, but they'll keep coming back to you like, I mean, I can't forget this one. This one stood out. The fourth one, which I added myself, is care. Care means you are genuine. You are genuine. You do not have an ulterior motive. You are out there not just for yourself, but for them. They can see on their end that you are genuine. You remember the example that Solo gave of the motorbike. After paying me 10 months, I'll give you the motorbike. You know, that shows care, that the other person is not going to lose because of interacting with you. So, bottom line, we are always pitching to our friends, to our families, to everybody. We are always, right now you are pitching. How out of these people, how will you stand out and Solo will be like, by the way, that lady.
I mean, I'll remember the white boots.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you guys laugh. It's something as simple as appearance matters, which is why personal grooming becomes important. I mean, you could take it to the extreme and just walk in here very smelly with clothes you haven't changed for 3 weeks. We'll remember you. But will we remember you in the way that wants us to interact with you again? You know what I mean? So, man, that's hugely important, and not enough emphasis is put on that.
Yeah. It's a skill to do it, to put it together.
Yeah, the issue of how to be memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Thank you so much.
So stand out.
Can I share one last example?
Yeah.
Something I have actually done. There's a gentleman I noticed at a restaurant that I go to from time to time. I've never been able to interact well. I've met them once. They were very cold towards me, aloof, disinterested. You know, I'm not there. I'm not at their level. And you have to respect that. You know, you can't force interaction. So rather than be offended, which I was, because how dare he? Does he know who I am? Rather than be offended, what I did, and this is something I do just personally to correct my own attitude in life as I go along, because offense will come from everywhere, and you can't let that stuff weigh on you, because it piles on you over time. Eventually, it's so heavy you can't move. So you have to keep yourself light. Don't be entitled. Lesson number one:
Yep.
no one owes you anything. No one owes you anything, not even your parents owe you anything.
Yeah.
That'll help you manage offense. So what did I do? I saw this guy. I noticed there was a drink he kept ordering, and I asked the waitress, does a guy come here a lot? Yeah, he's here every Saturday morning. It's like, okay, does he always have that drink? He's like, yeah. Okay, please do me a favor. Give me their bill. On one condition: do not tell them who has paid the bill. Say nothing, just tell them it was sorted out. So I sorted the bill. It wasn't big. I mean, I wouldn't go, if they send me a bill for 50K, I'm like, sorry, not for me. I mean, you have to be reasonable about what you're doing to be creative, you know? So I sorted out the bill. Next Saturday, same thing. 4 or 5 Saturdays in now, the guy was irritated. He's like, who keeps paying my... Like, it became an issue. The waitress called me. Solo. Now the guy he's really pressuring me to tell him who's paid. Like, please don't tell him. Just tell him it was sorted. And I'm not even coming this time. Just send me the amount to send to your till number. And every time he comes there, call me. I don't have to be there. I'll send by M-Pesa. It's been 2.5, almost 3 years now. Still happens. Okay, so what's the end goal for me? Number one, I'm dealing with my own internal issues of taking offense at the fact that they gave me a cold shoulder. That's number one. Number two, I promise you, the day that guy finds out, he will never forget me. That hasn't happened yet, and that is up to me, right? Because I swore the waitress to secrecy, and thankfully she has kept her word, and I don't feel it is time yet. I'm not sure that time will ever come. Again, because for me, it's not about getting anything back from them, which is Pius's point. You have to be roho safi about this stuff, because people can smell selfishness in your interaction. If you're trying to get something, they can tell, and then it puts them off, right? But when that happens, I guarantee you, there's nothing I will suggest for this gentleman to do in terms of business, in terms of interaction, that he will say no to. Because I have become memorable. And I have given. I've given of my 50 bob, 100 bob, whatever it is, 2,000 bob I send for 2.5 years. Every time he's in that restaurant. In fact, I'm pretty sure at this point, before he goes, he's like, hey, do I want to go to that place? Because now it's going to be another situation of, please tell me who has paid my bill. You know what I mean? And those are some of the ways you can pick to become memorable, especially with people you admire. A piece of advice a mentor gave me once: if you're ever in a room and you see someone you really respect, a sports fan, a famous actor, someone who's impacted you positively, an author whose book you love, the president, whatever, your MP, your MCA, your mother, your best friend's mom or dad, you know what I mean? Never leave the room without giving. And as much as you can, do it anonymously. And I love it when this happens in restaurants, because I can pay the bill and disappear. And there's no awkwardness of, okay, what do you want? I did this once for a very prominent individual in Kenya. I'm talking about Ukoju. It was a restaurant. He was being vetted for a very consequential position in this administration, actually in the last administration. And we had, I was sitting with a friend of mine. His name is Kimani, at a Java somewhere. We saw this gentleman, and I was like, isn't that the guy who was being vetted in Parliament, Juzi? I really loved his answers, man. That guy, he has kidneys. Yeah, he has good kidneys. So what we did, we asked the waiter to let us have his bill, and we swore them to secrecy. Don't you dare tell the guy who has paid. Like, I wouldn't say anything. We paid the bill, but us guys were still there. Unfortunately, the gentleman intimidated the life out of the waiter, and he ropocoed. He let the cat out of the bag. Next thing we know, the gentleman walked up to the table and said, "Excuse me." And we were surprised. It's like, who are you? Like, I'm Solomon. Very nice to meet you, sir. Kimani introduced himself. I'm Kimani. He's like, thank you very much for covering the bill. What do you do? I mean, the guy interrogated us for 6-7 minutes, to the point where now it was feeling like, hey, did we make a mistake? But then we realized, because of the situation he was in, being vetted for this important position, he was very uncomfortable about accepting anything from anyone. Because then what do we want?
Could be a setup.
Yeah, we're setting him up for something. You know, so motivation or motive is critical. And so after 6 minutes of quizzing us, he realized these guys were just being nice, kind. And he said thank you, we said goodbye. And every time I'm in a place randomly, conference, walk into a lift, the guy remembers our face. I mean, isn't that the whole point?
That's the whole point.
We've become, you know, it was not our intention for him to know. It just so happened he scared the wits out of the waiter, and the guy blurted out who had paid his bill. But these are some of the things, you know, I recommend for people to do in terms of showing honor and being memorable.
And by the way, sorry to make this long, but you've reminded me, but even billionaires do this. You think it's just you who wants connections? Absolutely. In fact, this is a specialization for billionaires. I remember a time we were in Dubai, the late CK, myself, and you know, in Dubai, these guys, their dining tables are like from here to there. And we had all these guys who are seated around the table. Me and CK are seated on the corner. He was at the head of the table, and I was next to him, and there was next to me a guy from, is it Iman? Yeah. And there were many, all of them, you know, dressed in their white garments. And he was just there, listening, watching, And then he leaned forward to me and he said, in Kikuyu, you know, now he can't speak in English. He said in Kikuyu that you see that guy who is seated there next to you, that's the guy with the money on this table. He had this emotional intelligence that was unbelievable. He could see right through people's characters, and I can't explain it, but he just had an eye for things, and especially around people. So we had dinner, it was nice. Then it was time to go, and he went round. He removed his black cards with golden writings, and he went round dishing out his card, and you know, he went clockwise. The guy he wanted was next to me.
Yeah.
And then he got to this one, then he looked at him and he said, you are a good man. I'll give you a different card. He goes to his pocket and he removes this gold-plated card, as in the whole room changed. Everybody was looking at this guy who was honored by this billionaire, and what was it about him that he deserved a golden card and everybody else got a black card? It became the subject. Now, from that point onwards, it was not about him, it was about who? Dr. CK. He stood out, he pitched.
He was memorable.
So you can see creativity, clarity, you know, and care. In fact, he said, his speech was very simple, you are a good man.
Well, you understand something about their culture. You know,
yes.
If you tell a Kenyan you're a good man, so, you know, to Middle Eastern culture, you tell someone he's a good man, it means something.
Yeah.
So being worldly, content, that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
The late CK had content in his head. He understood cultures, how to relate with different people.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Yeah.
I'm happy to boast here that I met the late CK.
Yeah.
On these premises, actually, a number of times. First time was in the lift, and you know how I made myself memorable. We used to sponsor a mountain bike race called the Coffee Trophy, which used to go through 40 kilometers of coffee plantation behind Thika, in Ruiru, Thika. And the biggest coffee plantation belonged to the late CK.
Yes.
And he had a dam.
The Kirubi Dam.
Yes, where he had his pet hippos.
Yes.
Like, who has pet hippos? Right? So I remember when we were getting permissions to have the mountain bikers go through, we had to be given rules, like over here, don't let them go there because the hippos could be out of the water, and these are dangerous animals. So anyway, he allowed us to do that 2 years in a row. Then we stopped. So I walked into the lift and I saw DJ CK, and I said hello, and he said hello politely but disinterestedly. And I said, how are your hippos doing? And he was like, how do you know about my hippos? It's like, I used to sponsor a mountain bike race. Thank you so much for allowing us. You are the guys. Why did you stop? You need to come back. It was nice to have people there, blah, blah, blah. So he gave me the black card with a golden ink. Yes. And I was, you know, I got home, I even showed off, you know. Like, I got the card. Until later on, someone told me about the golden card. I was like, what the crap, man. I was not worthy enough of the golden card. But the point was, I was memorable. Yep. So, you know, these are important things that we're not taught in school formally, that make a world of a difference in life, in your trajectory in life, where you end up, what you end up doing. My last boss, and this is the final story I'll tell, just to kick that dead horse. my last boss in the US, Smart Circle, doing sales, a gentleman called Paul Goodrow, was a high school dropout, was worth who knows how many millions of dollars. Every now and then he would go to the ATM card to the ATM and get his statement receipt from the ATM before he came to the office in the morning, and you'd pass it around the office. and his current account, current, not savings, had no less than $10 million at any given time.
Wow.
His next door neighbor was John Travolta. He was a high school dropout. He used to tell us this all the time, just to motivate us. You guys went to college, you have zero excuse. Me, I'm a high school dropout. Look at the life I'm living. I mean, if you didn't understand why he did it, you would get offended and think he was bragging. But he was trying to motivate us. And he told us once how he was sending his 12-year-old daughter to Switzerland for summer to spend time at a famous high school, which she was going to join when she was 16.
Wow.
And we asked him, why would you send your daughter away from home to another continent at such a young age? He's like, that's why I'm sending her now. And every year between now and when she's 16, she's going to spend 2-3 weeks there meeting her future teachers, getting accustomed to the layout of the school, you know, Swiss boarding school. And we're like, okay. And what's the whole point of that? It's like, because chances are very high that she'll be desk mates with the child of a current monarch, Queen of England, King of Spain, because that's where all the kids go to.
Networking.
Yes. And we're like, okay, so why is that important? That sounds a bit vain. Well, first of all, she's going to learn certain skills, how to interact with a certain type of personality. She'll maintain these relationships long after she's done with school. So if she ever needs a job or whatever, it's a phone call away because we were desk mates. And even better yet, she could get married to one of them. And just like that, my grandkids are royalty. You know, I mean, this guy had a very
calculated moves.
Very calculated, which I really appreciated. But these are all, you know, things we can do intentionally. Picking what spaces you spend your time in. Quality over quantity, it matters. Who you allow into your circles, who you spend time with, how to make yourself memorable. So yeah, cannot overstate the importance of that. Cool, next question. Because we will kill a whole day before we take anyone else's question. Hello.
It's Stephen Mwao, and I have a question for Solo and Pius. Okay. According to you, who is your ideal woman or wife? The other question I have is, in this world that God has given us the free will, do you think we should be good or evil, or we should be in a balance? We should balance all.
Wow. Solo? Me, I'm thinking.
Wow, ideal woman or wife, material. I mean, I know. I think if you ask 10 guys, you'll have 10 different answers. It's a very subjective thing. I mean, there's universals. You have to be able to get along. So, a measure of submissiveness, which has been really misbranded lately, is important. It's an important factor of your dynamics. And that goes for the guy as well. Like, to what extent will you ignore your better interests or your best interests for her sake? Very important. So while you're picking the ideal woman or to be a wife, I'd say look in the mirror. Are you the best version of yourself? Because until you can say yes, you have no business looking for that ideal woman or wife. And that is honestly the most holistic answer I can give on that subject, because if you ask 10 people, like I said, you'll have 10 different answers. Now, on the issue of being good, evil, or a little bit of both, for balance. I mean, I think, I ascribe to Christian values. I am a person of faith. I am not perfect. Far from it. I am a work in progress. But if you're like me and you ascribe to such values, you know, there is no room for being a little bad and a little good. I think the virtues of being good are universal. Everyone wants them. They are understood even in the absence of language. I don't believe in the issue of yin and yang, a little bit of bad to balance the good. I think that's a very twisted concept, personally. There's only good to aspire to. Yeah, and if you're asking me how you achieve that, that's a conversation for for another day. But I hope that gives you an idea of my thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also I'm also a person of faith, so my reference is back to the Word, and Genesis chapter 2, I think, I don't know if it's verse 16 or 18 or 22, one of them. It says, it is not good for man to be alone. It's the first time, after God had created everything, for the first time, every time he created something, he said, this is good. But on the sixth day, after he had created man and everything else, he looked at man and he said, it is not good for the first time for man to be alone. And then he continued, now to answer your question, he continued and said, I will make him a helper comparable to him. Some versions of the Bible say, I'll make him a helper who is suitable for him. And for me, that second part of the verse is really what qualifies the kind of spouse that God aspires us to have, because he qualified it. In fact, if you go down, I think it's in 22, that's why he says, the Bible says, and he put man into deep sleep, and then he took out the rib from man, and from that rib he created a woman. Yeah, and then it says, and he brought her unto the man. He brought her unto the man. You can see, I read KJV, eh? He brought her unto the man. And then he says, and when the man woke up, he looked at the woman and he said, behold, flesh of my flesh, bone, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my, isn't it? Eh? And he finished by saying, she shall be called woman, isn't it? Eh? So the thing is my understanding of that scripture is, the rib was so specific to the man to make the woman. There is what you call a suitable spouse for everybody. And if you're in my club, we call them kingdom spouses. Solo is married to Aika, and they're having a fantastic marriage. But if either of them is married to somebody else, it can become a very rocky marriage. She is the female version of him, and he is the male version of her, and that's why they are suitable for each other. Because why was she a helper? The man was actually found in the field working, so she was brought in his place of mission, on the field of mission. Sorry, now I'm really preaching. You've gotten me into preaching, you get. But the question demands me to refer to authoritative text, and therefore my understanding is that there is a suitable spouse for everyone. Not being good is not good enough for someone to be your spouse, because they may not be suitable for you. That's deep, eh? That's deep. So, to make your candle. Now, coming to the second part of your question, when God said to Adam and Eve, you can eat from every other tree, but do not eat from this one at the center, God recognized something very important, that he created man to have free will. Free will to make a decision. But he said, but do not eat this one, because his will was man should not eat. So now we have two things which are competing. We have our free will, and you have God's will. Now, when they ate the fruit out of their own free will, it landed all of us into trouble, right? Into trouble, is it? And evil was birthed out of it. Evil was birthed out of exercising our free will, which was against the supreme will of God. So, what am I trying to say? Our life was designed to be guided by the free will of God, and for us to always align by the supreme will of God. And our free will, it is our job to always align our free will with the supreme will of, you get, eh? And if you live I believe if you live your life by constantly aligning your free will with the supreme will of God, then this question of evil then is put aside. But again, this is the trapping of human beings, because our free will is so strong, and it is so instinctive. When you've been speaking about relationships, it can be so physically driven that our free will is overpowering the supreme will of God. So for me, and I think that's why that's what distinguishes true Christians from Christians by name, is really how we align these two wills together. There are so many of us who we are still being sandpapered, you know, and I think it's a continuous thing. It's a continuous refinement to really be able to be keen and listen and know that the supreme will of God on this matter is this. So there is no question for me that is for me that's not even a question. We are committed to do good things, because the supreme will of God is about doing good things, and there is no balance, because you can never mix light and darkness. They can never be together. Night and day can never be together. Evil and good can also not coexist. One must be the one that is superseding the other, or prevailing the other. So if you're a man of faith like me and Solo here, we are one dimension. We are here to do good, and that's why we are having the tea.